I'm Steve from This Week with Cars, and what's better than finding a barn find Sunbeam Tiger? Finding 3 barn find Sunbeam Tigers. I've been a fan of the Sunbeam Tiger and Sunbeam sports cars for virtually my entire life. My father was driving a Sunbeam Tiger when he met my mother, and he still owns that car today. So I grew up around these cars, and these cars greatly influenced my love of cars. The Sunbeam Tiger, of course, is a slightly tweaked version of the Sunbeam Alpine. However, it features a small block Ford V8. If you have watched the recent movie Ford v Ferrari, you should be familiar with the race car driver Ken Miles. And Ken Miles, while working for Carroll Shelby, was very instrumental in the development of the Sunbeam Tiger. Ken Miles also raced the Sunbeam Tiger in several events. Let's take a look at these cars. There's 3 marks or series of the Sunbeam Tiger: a Mark I, a Mark 1A, and a Mark II. This first Tiger is a Mark I Tiger. It's easily identifiable by the hard tonneau cover that covers where the convertible top sits. You can see that this car is what we call a basket case here in the United States. This car does, however, retain its original engine. We can see under the bonnet the 260 cubic inch V8. There's really nothing special about the chrome valve covers on these engines, but they did all come with a Sunbeam tag which displayed the engine number. If you are buying a Tiger, make sure that it has the original serial tag held on by original rivets, and it will also have what's called a JAL tag. Tigers were made at the Jensen factory instead of the Sunbeam factory. If you look at the bottom of this tag, it actually says Alpine 260 V8, and that is because the name Tiger was already in use by another car company in Europe. One nice thing about Sunbeams is they did put the color code on the chassis tag. This code is code 58, which says that this was a midnight blue car. So it was originally midnight blue with a blue interior, as these seats and panels appear to be original. Looking inside the car, it's unfortunate that the gauges are smashed. The speedometer is different than that of an Alpine. The speedometer on a Tiger goes up to 140 miles per hour. Only Tigers had these chrome strips on the side, as well as this Roots emblem here on the back quarter. There's too many parts in the back of this car to show you the differences between an Alpine and a Tiger, but you can see the box for the battery right there, which only a Tiger would have. Moving on to the red car, you can see it's missing the grille. The grille should be just a bar, pictured here on the green car. It's also not wearing the standard wheels and tires. Let's take a look under the bonnet. This car is much more complete, and I'm told that it does run, although not well. You can see that there's some holes. I think that someone had hood pins on this car at one point. This car, of course, has the most important chassis tag as well as the JAL tag. The color code on this car is 86, which means that this was a forest green car to begin with. You can see the forest green color still in the engine bay where they did not repaint over with red. This car would be considered a Mark 1A car, and it has a soft tonneau cover that covers the soft top instead of the hard tonneau cover that is on the Mark 1 cars. Looking inside the car, you can see the wooden dashboard, which Alpines did not get unless they were an Alpine GT. Alpines usually have just a black vinyl dash instead of the wood. Let's take a look in the trunk. And you can see that the spare tire lays flat on the trunk floor where it would be standing up on the rear panel on an Alpine. Also, the battery sits in the trunk on a Tiger. The battery sits behind the right-hand seat in an Alpine. You can see these little brackets where the hooks would go to hold the battery in place. And lastly, this car would probably make a good parts car or perhaps a race car. This car did have hood pins at one time, so maybe it was a race car in the past, and maybe it could be a race car again. Under the bonnet of this car, the engine is not in there at the moment, and you can see the 2 important tags, the serial tag and the JAL tag there. This car has a color code of 39, which means that this was originally a Carnival Red car. Carnival Red is a very popular color here in the United States, and there's probably more Carnival Red cars out there now than there ever were built originally. The rockers are rusted out, but the value on these cars is getting to the point where almost any Tiger is worth saving. Let's take a look inside. You can see the chrome valve covers with the Sunbeam logo on them. This here is the tins for the original air filters of a Tiger. And these in the past have been a very valuable item. The red car has the incorrect air filter, so I could use this set to make it right. Again, you can see the wooden dashboard and the 140 mile/hour gauge. Someone has added an incorrect ammeter to this car. And this car again is a Mark 1A Tiger. It does not have a hard tonneau that covers the soft top. And this hard top that's on it is incorrect as well. This is an aftermarket made by Dyna Plastics. This is a much later Tiger than the red one. You can see on the back corner of the door that it's very squared off, as well as on the hood. It's squared off right here. On the earlier cars, it had a round beveled edge on the back of the bonnet, as well as on the doors. Although the car is in bad shape, I think most all of it is here. You can see on this other side there's some rust around the wheel wells, and the rocker is gone as well. And the hubcaps are incorrect. I believe that these might be from a Ford Falcon. Obviously, two of these cars are not going to run, so let's concentrate on the red one today. I've got about an hour's time, and let's see what we can get done on it. Let's see if anything happens. You can hear the fuel pump running. Sounds like it's pumping fuel. Let's see if it starts. Hey. Started, but the throttle was sticking. I can smell gasoline as well. Let's take a look under the air cleaner. I don't know how well you can see that, but there's a whole lot of gas that came out there. So I'm not surprised it ran. The carburetor may not have even been working that well, but it was dumping gas in, and that's what made it start. Unfortunately, the carburetor tag is missing, so without taking this carb apart, there's no telling what this one is. Obviously, this carburetor needs rebuilt, but luckily I have others ready to go on. I have a box here of Sunbeam Tiger carbs. I have a couple that I know are good and usable, but I also have one here that's freshly rebuilt and ready to go, so I'm going to put this one on. These cars do use 2-barrel carburetors. This should just pop off, but this stud right here is gummed up and held up there. Yep. You can see that's definitely been on there for a while. Connecting this new carburetor back up is as easy as reversing just a few things. I like to line up pipes before I bolt things on. It gives you a little bit more wiggle room to make sure that it's lined up correctly. This air cleaner is a real piece of junk. We'll turn the key, let the carburetor fill up with fuel. I can hear the air coming out of the carburetor right now. Okay, it stopped. See what happens. That's a lot better. Okay, the car runs. Let's see if it'll drive. Brakes are very hard. I'm not sure if they work. You can hear the pilot bearing noise change when I push the clutch. It does go into gear, so I guess the clutch slave is working. Looks like the brake. And the clutch work. Okay, there we go. It does go forward and reverse. And the brakes do work. I'm getting a good smell of antifreeze right now, and it looks like it's getting pretty hot as well. So I'm going to turn the engine off. These Keystone brand wheels on this car are terrible. They look ridiculous, and so I'm going to put on a good set of the original wheels with original hubcaps. And once I get those switched over, I think this car is going to look a whole lot better. Hopefully you agree that this car looks far better with the original type wheels on it than those Keystones. Now there would be a trim ring that went around the edge of the center cap. I just didn't have any of those handy, so I'll find a set of those and we'll put those on later. My plan with this car is to keep taking it more and more towards original, but leave it as a daily driver. Let me know what I should do with these other cars. Should this car be turned into a race car? Should this car be restored? Let me know what you would do.